Your someday starts today. It's time to explore and test the newest science, methods, and trends for creating a life you love with your host, Tanya MFK. Welcome to My Designed Life.
In today's episode, we're going to talk about how to use accountability to achieve more. Hello, everyone, and welcome to My Design Life, where we learn and test the latest science, tips, tools, and strategies for you to create your best life every day. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at My Design Life Show and at Tanya MFK. And if watching videos isn't your thing, then head over to My Design Life Show podcast and catch the audio. I'm Tanya MFK, and I am so glad that you're here. We are going to talk about how to use accountability, why it works, and how to create it in your life so you can reach your goals with more ease and success. But first, last episode, we talked about looking back, not in regret or longing, but using reflection as a tool to move forward in our goals. We learned that for those of us with big goals, aspirations, and high performance expectations, failure is inevitable. It's not an if, it's a when. And with that, how do we use it in a positive way, a methodical way to move forward and to do even better? We learned a clear step-by-step process to look back on a regular basis and how to evaluate our progress and improve it by bringing in a regular practice of reflection. Now, as many of you know, we host a live reflection and planning sessions every month, quarter, and year, absolutely free, because this practice is so valuable. And the truth is, I'm going to be at my house doing it anyway, so why not have all you there with me? And as you know, it's not a lecture or a seminar. We simply hold a space of accountability for you to take action and do this process. As a matter of fact, if you're watching this video live, our quarterly session is tomorrow. And even if you're not, you can go to TanyaMFK.com website and see when our next session is scheduled. As always, we challenged you that week to do a weekly reflection and assessment, just so you can see what it's like to look back and plan for change and achievement. Of course, there's a free worksheet, because there's always a free worksheet. That way you can download and get started. So if you want to try that out, make sure to catch the last episode, How to Look Back to Create Success, and make that part of your arsenal to create the life you want. And now let's get to our next guest and topic, accountability. Here's our conversation.
Welcome to My Designed Life.
And now for our guest today. He has been following an ambitious go-getter spirit when most of us were still complaining about getting up for school, planning his own speaking events, giving over 1,000 speeches, running marathons, and coaching others on systemic goal setting. By the age of 23, he is the founder and CEO of Consistent Progress System, a personal development business focused on supporting people to reach their ultimate goals through accountability. Today, he is here to discuss the importance of community, how to use human psychology to your advantage, and the need for tangible and measurable progress. Please give a warm welcome to Andrew Weiss. Hi there, Andrew.
Hello, Tanya. Happy to be here.
Yeah, excited to have you. So tell us about this. I mean, ambitious as all get out. You did all this a lot before 23. May I ask how old you are now?
I'm 25 now.
Oh, okay, right. So we're 2 years later. Amazing. So you've done all this thing, and now you've come up, you created this system, and it sounds like it's really based on accountability. Will you tell us a little more about it?
Yeah, so in the 21st century, as you probably know too, it's just so easy to get distracted. You know, we say we want to do something, and then we do it for a little bit, and then we trail off. Or we say we want to do something, and they're like, yeah, that'd be nice to do, but then we don't actually follow up to take those actions. And I'm the kind of guy who, you know, I hold myself to a very high standard. And so if I miss a day at the gym one day, you know, that's not good enough for me. I say, you know what, I can't miss those days in the first place. I need to come with a better system to help prevent that. And so by having an accountability system in place where people expect you to go to the gym, people expect you to do amazing things all the time, when you have the extra force behind you to push you to where you want to go, then success really happens very quickly. And that's why I created this accountability system, and everyone who's joined and been a part of it has seen very exponential, amazing results. And that's why I want to keep sharing it for people around me as well.
Awesome. Well, so besides people probably hating you because you have this motivation, like you're like, I can go to the gym and I just miss it. I'm like, I have to go. Like, I'm sure a lot of people are like, yeah, that's not me. Like, that's not how my life is happening. I miss it. I feel bad that I've missed it. And then you're like, and that's, that's it. So a lot of this is innate in you, right? Seems like this is kind of this part of your wiring that's in this. So then how do you go from kind of being this go-getter and overachiever to creating the accountability system for the rest of us who like don't have that? Did you find like a need for yourself at some point for accountability, or was this just other people going, I'm sick of watching you do everything and I'm doing nothing. How do I do it?
I mean, as far as innate wiring goes, I'm a big believer that I think talent is BS. I'm not sure if I can swear on the show, but I'm just going to say BS for now.
Yeah.
Where any skill that someone wants to learn can really be learned. Steph Curry, one of the greatest basketball players in the court right now, he would shoot 1,000 shots every single day. And yes, he's not built like LeBron James or Kevin Durant or Giannis, but if you really take the time to develop a skill consistently, build that mental, physical, spiritual toughness, then I'm a big advocate that you can really put your mind set your mind to whatever you want to accomplish, essentially.
Absolutely.
And so when it comes to innate wiring, I will say, Tanya, that it did take many years of developing.
So it did, because you kind of said like, I'm the kind of person that does this. So it was like, wow, like a lot of people aren't that person. So it wasn't always that way.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, when I was in high school, I didn't hit puberty till I was 16. And so most of my high school experience was little Andrew walking around, being socially awkward, not really sure what I'm doing. And of course, struggled in school, struggled at home. And after just going through all this struggle, I'm like, you know what? I've had enough. And so that's when I really.
So you weren't like a go-getter at that point. You kind of had like a breaking point, got fed up with the way things were.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And I believe definitely that I'm kind of with Elon Musk, that everyone should have some adversity in their lives just to kind of build that mental toughness to push them forward. And my adversity definitely happened when I was in high school. And from there, I'm like, you know what? I'm only going to go up from here. I'm only going to get better and wire myself to be the best person I can be every day. But, as life goes on, things change very quickly. And if you don't have the right system in place to help support you and keep you going, then it's just way too easy to fall back into your own habits, old routines, old lifestyle that you wanted to avoid in the first place, whereas systems can help prevent that.
Absolutely. Well, and just to say, comment on one of the things you said about like adversity and things like that. Elon Musk, I'm on a double side with him because I love his stick to it, go-getterness, but I absolutely abhor the example that he gives for lack of sleep and balance, and because like that's just drives me nuts. I'm like, stop being so successful and giving this terrible example. But science has actually shown that that we actually our most happy moments are overcoming challenges, not when everything's okay. So we absolutely need it. Like, so many people want to disagree with that. Some people are like, oh yeah, you think I'm feeling great when I'm doing this? But the true sense of happiness is a reason why we see these people who have reached what we deem as a certain level of success, usually monetarily, and they end up getting involved in charities and doing these things, because doing absolutely nothing and just living on your money doesn't actually make anyone happy. Right. So like we need these challenges to overcome, something to help, something to do. So absolutely, yes, Elon Musk and many others actually say that we do need that. So that helps. So kind of out the gate, I was like, okay, well, you're just a go-getter and you got it, but you had your own experience that kind of brought you here. And then through having that kind of moment, with combination with puberty and the changes that you had there, going, I want it to be different. You practiced what you could do to make it happen. And then from there, you started doing all these amazing things that you were doing. And is that when you kind of went like the accountability was a big part of it, or was it the systems, or like, how did you get to this being the thing?
Yeah. So it actually happened. So how this all kind of came in place, this system specifically it was actually 2017. It was December. I'm like, okay, 2018 is coming up. I got to invest in myself to get ready for the new year and make sure that 2018 is going to be an amazing year. And I started going through all these programs, and I noticed actually that all these programs were like, oh, pay us for this, pay us for this, pay us for this. But then there was one program by a guy named Benjamin Hardy, who's actually one of the top writers on medium.com.
Very familiar with Ben. I've actually done work with Ben.
Oh, perfect.
And his
awesome.
team. Yeah.
Yeah. Heck yeah. And Ben says, hey, I have this year-long course. It's super epic. It's going to cost you $1,000. But if you join this course and you actually listen to what we have to say and actually follow our curriculum, we'll give you your $1,000 back plus another $1,000.
Right.
And I'm like, well, that's a no-brainer. I could totally do that. I mean, of course. And so I joined the course, and I'm making great progress. And luckily, Ben does a good job having a secretary or assistant reach out to people and kind of check in on them. And what just blew my mind completely is that she checked in, I think, in mid-February, early March. I noticed there were about 700 people who joined the Facebook group, and let's say maybe even half of them were actually paid for the course. And I was talking to the assistant, and I'm like, so how many people are actually still involved in this course? And she goes, oh, about 50 of them. And I'm like, what?
And by May, the number went down to 20.
Yeah,
There was
yeah.
about 20 people who were actually sticking with this program. So
yeah.
And they say 92% of participants don't complete a course in general.
Yeah, and that's just the most mind-blowing thing to me ever.
Yeah.
And so
because the shortage isn't information, right? The shortage isn't information. The information's out there. That's what everyone thinks they need. Well, if I get this information, I'll finally do it. But it's not the information, it's the action, as you're talking about.
Yeah.
So exactly. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Yeah. So that is my frustration, that a lot of these people who sell these courses, sell these products, people buy them, and it's just like, all right, good luck. Now you know what to do. Good luck. But they don't actually have that actual support and that system in place to make sure they do take action, they do follow up, and do succeed. And so once I discovered this, I'm like, something needs to be better. And so I kind of took that concept where I say, okay, I stayed on track more than I did for other courses that I invested into, because I wanted that instead of getting my money back. And when we did sprint goals through the challenge, where Benjamin Hardy in April was like, all right, everyone, I want you to complete your year-long goal in 1 month. You're like, ah.
Making you look at things a lot differently.
Yeah, because he really brought in this important concept that time moves slower when we accomplish goals faster. And that just makes so much sense to me. I'm like, yeah, that does make a lot of sense. Because if you say, oh, I'm going to go to Disneyland when I'm 50, by the time you turn 50 years old, you're like, oh, I guess I'm at Disneyland, but now I only have 20, 30 years left of my life. What am I going to do now, kind of thing. Where if you go to Disneyland next week, you're like, oh, now I can do this, now I can do this, now I can do this.
Right, now I have new things I can focus on. And look how quickly I did that. I could do this. I could go to Magic Mountain.
Yeah, exactly. And so essentially, I kind of take that concept where you take the importance of investing into yourself, set a goal, and then say how you're going to make progress towards that goal every day for a consistent period of time. And I actually just got done watching the TED Talk recently. It was by Stephen Dunmeyer. I think it's How to Achieve Any Goal You Want in Life. Has like 17 million views. And he also talks about the importance of really breaking things down. And so when you really take the time to realize the importance of, one, investing in yourself, and the psychology behind that, as I mentioned, is that, it's been shown consistently that humans, we're only on Earth to survive and to reproduce. That's all, all biologically framed for. And we would rather not lose something than gain something.
Yeah.
And so if you're looking outside, you're like, geez, I'd like to, have a Ferrari. I'd like to start a nonprofit. I'd like to run a marathon. If you don't put something in place that make life worse by not doing that, then the chances of you actually doing that goes way down.
Right.
And so putting that deposit down on yourself, saying, okay, I'm going to put $100, $500, $1,000 on me saying I'm going to do that thing. You go, oh, well, I don't want to lose that money. I better go out and do that thing, essentially. And then when you take the time to say, rather than I want to lose weight, rather than I want to write a book, I want to run a marathon, just break it down and say, you know what, I just want to only eat 2,000 calories per day for 20 days straight. I only want to write 5 pages per day for 30 days straight. I only want to run 2 miles per day for 30 days straight. And just kind of put a very simple, easy goal you can do consistently. And that's when the goal setting stacks on top of each other. And that's when results occur, whether you want them to or not, essentially.
Right.
And just by doing this program, it's such a big confidence booster for people going, oh, I can actually do something that I want to do if I just do a simple task each day that adds on top of each other. And it really is an incredible feeling knowing that all it takes is breaking things down to accomplish whatever you set your mind to.
Right. And having enough at stake, like you mentioned, the investment, like that really is a huge part. And it's the definitely the psychology of losing something. And it's also the first step of action, right? Before you even
Mhm.
taken the step to like do the things you said you're gonna do, you've put your money where your mouth is, right? Like,
Mhm.
and whether it's money, whether it's a shoe, it doesn't really matter, right? It's just the fact that, like you said, it's we worry, like you're saying, I want that Ferrari, and you may work towards getting that Ferrari, but you'll work a hell of a lot harder when you think somebody's taking your like 1986 Corolla outside. You're like, all of a sudden I'm going to do all these things. And you're like, yeah, but you didn't do half of that effort to work towards this thing you said you wanted. Right.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
tell us a little about it. Like what, like, I mean, I see where it stemmed for you was really kind of going through this course and seeing how much you could accomplish when you had this, these markers and these pointers of like following, and a lot of psychology is behind it. So if you guys aren't familiar, Benjamin Hardy is, like he mentioned, a top author, one of the top authors on Medium. He's also the author of the book Willpower Doesn't Work, which you guys have heard me talk about a lot. I worked with his team in 2017 when they created this course called 52 Weeks of Momentum, which you guys have may see on my YouTube, has every lesson kind of explained to you from that. And then we have moved into what they now call AMP, the Accelerated Momentum Program. And Ben himself is actually now a PhD in psychology, and there's a lot of psychology that goes behind the idea of what we want to achieve, and kind of the mismatch of what we used to think. It was willpower, it was withholding things from yourself. It was about what you could do, it wasn't about your environment. And this really takes a different approach for you to face a lot of things, a lot of truths, make a lot of decisions, and really get real with yourself. Stop blaming it on anyone else. And so coming from that, which is what Andrew's saying he kind of came from, was like, look, I already became this go-getter. I did this stuff from my own experience, and on my climb, went through, saw no one was finishing courses, and absolutely, it's absolute truth that they don't. And then there was someone offering a different way, and not only did they offer a different way, but they gave you the psychology, the tools, the accountability. There was a big push on accountability partners, accountability groups. I ran one of their accountability groups, and so watching how people succeeded through that was actually phenomenal. And so you came from that, and you were like, okay, so I'm assuming you finished through that year, like you finished for 2017 in 52
Mhm.
weeks of Momentum. Are you also an AMP right now?
I am an amp.
Okay,
Yes. Yeah.
fantastic.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
so you're an app now. So you're doing that, and now you're like, okay, let's do something with this accountability thing. Like this accountability thing, like is a big deal. So is that kind
Mhm.
of where you came into what you're doing now?
Yes. So it was actually, I didn't officially start the system until, yeah, December 2018, actually. And I'm like, okay, so I know accountability works, that when you invest in yourself and expect to get something back. I know that having, at least for me, and that's the other thing too, is that, everyone's different. Some people, they do have that innate sense of like, okay, whatever I set my mind to, I can accomplish, I can do this, like it's going to happen. For other people like me, I'm like, you know what? I just need more support. I need
Mm-hmm.
people to encourage me. I need people to support me. I need to know I'm a part of a group of people where everyone is doing some goal setting, and I know that really is what helped me push forward. Maybe it's because I'm an extroverted personality, but if I don't have
It's
that,
also your environment, right? It's creating your environment, whether
yeah,
it's people or whether it's taking the cookies out of the cabinet. That's part of your environment, and those people do become part of that. If you're surrounded by a bunch of people who are like, you can't do that, or they're not doing that. Sometimes our
mhm,
loved ones are great and they're kind and all these wonderful things, but if they're not on that same journey, then our environment isn't geared up for that. So accountability alone is also an environmental issue, which sounds really weird saying it that way, but it's an
yeah,
environmental like thing as
yeah.
well, right? So
Hmm.
yeah, so go ahead, you were saying.
Well, yeah, and also, yeah, it goes back to the psychology. I was reading studies that they were testing bicycle racers and just like overall runner racers, and people who try and do it by themselves. Like, yeah, they'd be fast, but when they have people who they're competing against and going up against, it's like, oh, now I got to go that much faster, kind of thing. And so it does elevate you to a whole nother
Mm-hmm.
level when that competitive aspect is put in. And I know
Yeah.
some people are anti-competitiveness, but I'm always a big fan of competition because it's like the classic, I love basketball, Larry Bird versus Magic
Yeah.
Johnson. They say they both elevate each other consistently and constantly.
Yeah.
And
And the
JJ Watt,
competition, if you
yeah.
guys know, like they're not enemies either. The competition was a healthy competition. So again,
Hmm.
you know, when you're looking at, some people don't like competition. We just met with somebody, we were talking about money in another one of our shows. And it was, you know, the relationship of what we think of something to be, like that's where that kind of unhealthy. There's actually very healthy in competition. It's just a matter of how you perceive it and what you do with it. If competition comes from the place where, you know, you want to annihilate somebody like personally, then we've come to an unhealthy place, right? But yeah, absolutely, that healthy competition, that vibe, everybody kind of in it, doing it, you know, it really raises that frequency. So
Yeah,
it makes sense.
and I love the quote by Brene Brown that you know, achieving success and achieving a goal should be like, you know, being on a soccer field where if you're the one who hits that game-winning goal, you're like, oh, thank you for the teammates for passing me the ball, for keeping the defender distracted. You know, thank you for everyone to help me get here. Whereas if you're on the team where someone else scores a goal, you're like, oh my gosh, you're so amazing. You know, you scored that goal. Way to go. Way to help out the team, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so you view that, yeah, like you said, competition in a healthy light, it really does help when you see it from that perspective. And, you know, I'm always, you know, people confuse, you know, jealousy versus inspiration. Like when you see someone who is accomplishing something that you want to have per se, rather than be jealous of it, saying, okay, well, you can either be jealous or you can let that inspire you to also go after it. And people are usually
Absolutely.
helpful too. So if you ask them how they did that in the first place, they're like, oh, well, let me tell you, kind of thing. And,
Absolutely. Well, I
and
know I'm going to say for the women here, if you're ever like, oh, I love your dress, the first thing usually is like, oh, you know, I got it here. Like we automatically, without thinking, are like, I just want to help you. You can get the dress too. Like we just have to say something. So
Mhm.
totally true. And I love that. Like it's the soccer team thing. I actually haven't heard that quote, and I'm terrible with names, but there's another quote out there that says there is no such thing as self-made. Every one of our successes are a combination made up of the people who have either given us, you know, a word of encouragement, let us in that, you know, in traffic on the freeway, or actually, you know, we're there with us in the trenches. But there is no such thing as self-made. No matter how alienated, alone, or lack of certain things you may have had, the truth is there's no such thing. There's always been somebody, something around that has helped us build up to where we are.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, just and there's actually an African proverb that if you go alone, you'll go fast, but if you travel with others, you'll go far. And it's kind of
I like that.
along that aspect as well.
Yeah. Less
And
chance of being eaten by a lion.
yeah, exactly.
That too. That was the subtext under there.
Yeah. And then and one more point I want to bring up, when I was traveling around Oregon and giving presentations to high school students, is I would tell them, like, you know, it does get unfortunate, you know, sometimes we do grow up and get exposed to certain bubbles that, you know, we don't always ask for per se. And so if you grow up in an environment where, for example, you know, you want to become an astronaut, or you do want to become an NBA player, if you're around people who aren't astronauts or aren't NBA players, they'd be like, that's too difficult. You're not smart enough. You can't go do it. But if you go ask an astronaut how to become an astronaut, he'd be like, well, you do this, well, you do this, well, you do this. And so
Exactly.
going back to that environment you were talking about, like allowing
Yeah.
yourself to ask for help from people who have achieved what you want to have, they're more likely going to help you and going to be there for
Yeah.
you. And so
Well, and the old adage, you know, you are the sum of the five people you hang around. So if the five people you hang around don't believe that these things are possible, then guess what? You're going to find yourself right there. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so it absolutely matters who we're around, what we're around, where we surround ourselves, and being clear what we want. So how do you
Mm-hmm.
walk through with somebody to, I guess, get to that path? You know, first to identify where we're going. Because I always tell people, you know, you can't get anywhere if you first don't know where you're at. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
even if you're lost, you can't go, well, I have to get there. It's like, well, where are you? Well, I don't know. Okay, well, there's a gas station here. Like you start to familiarize, like, okay, there's some weird thing. There's a lady with a hat. You're like, okay, she's not on the map, but where else, what else can I, to start to know where you are? And then once you start to know where you are, that's the only way that you can really start to find out where you're headed, where you want to go. And then
Mm-hmm.
where you want to go, that's only a part. Then you go, okay, what's the plan to get to where I want to go? Like, okay, well, I'm stuck at the gas station now. My plan to get over there is now I got to go up and make a right, whatever that is. And then from there, creating the environment, which for what you're providing people is really a sense of accountability and investment, it sounds
Mm-hmm.
like, to get to where they're going, right?
Yeah,
So do
exactly.
you work with them to get to kind of that first part of like where they are, what you want, or do they just come to you like, I already know, I'm ready, like they're go-getters? Because that
Yeah,
can be it too. Some people are like, I already know what I want. I just need someone to keep me there.
yeah. So there's actually a combination. Some people, they're like, I don't even know where to start. Some people are like, okay, I guess I'll do this. And sometimes it is a conversation that I do have with them one-on-one, saying, okay, where are you? Where would you like to be? What would that take? Other people, I just kind of say, hey, here are some examples of other goals people have set. So feel free to think of something that works for you as well. And that is actually the beauty of the challenge, is that everyone does get to set their own standards.
Yeah. Well, I love that too. I just didn't even think of that. Like, you get to also kind of see what other people are doing to go like, oh yeah, maybe I could do that. You're not stuck in your bubble. You're with other people trying to achieve, and you're like, oh, I didn't even think of that. That's a great idea. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, for some people, reading 10 pages per day would be a lot, where for other people, they're like, oh, it has to be at least 30 pages per day just to even make it count, kind of thing.
Right.
And so yeah, people do get their own entry per se, what they're passionate about, what they want to accomplish. And then we just kind of have a conversation. Okay, how can we break that down into a daily, weekly thing to make it automatic, essentially?
Yeah.
And just how well that works for people, really, that helps them determine, as long as they stay consistent, they will see results and progress, whether they want to or not. It's such
But they
a
have
great
to get
feeling.
specific. It sounds like, obviously they have to come in. You have to get specific, because just saying, oh, I want to lose weight. Like, well, what is that? 1 pound, 70 pounds? Like,
Yeah,
what is
exactly.
that? And what does that mean? And if that's the case, what is it for this? What does it mean for this week? I always tell people, like, well, what does that mean at 6 a.m. tomorrow? What does that mean when I translate it into real life? That's what I want to understand. So you kind of get them set up to there, then identify how to kind of like how to measure it and track it. And then what's the investment part that they come into?
Yeah, so it's different. It's a tiered system, and I've been playing around with different investments that work for people because, funny enough, I've been talking to a lot of people about this system. And, to some people, $100 is a lot of an investment. To other people, $1,000 is like, it's pocket change for me.
I can do that all day, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so, the idea is that when people do an investment, they want to be worried a little bit about losing it.
Not terrified, right? Yeah, there's a balance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because if you're not worried about losing it, it's just like, okay, well, then that means you're just going to let the investment slip through your fingers right now. So right now that's a tiered system. So they can either choose to invest, $100 deposit, $500 deposit, or $1,000 deposit. And then as we continue to scale the system even more, I'm sure those tiers will continue to increase.
The 10,000 deposit, the 50,000 deposit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Cause a lot of high rollers out there. And, if you're making 10 grand a month and, you want to back out of your system, you're like, yeah, I can afford to lose $1,000, $2,000 because I don't want to stay consistent in what I already wanted to do. But because human nature, we want to go back to our normal, original thought patterns and routines that hold us back in the first place. Those are the 3 tiers right now. And then and also the competitive aspect is it gets put into a pot of money, essentially, so everyone has access to that. So if you don't complete your goals, you forfeit your deposit to everyone else who did complete their goals. And when I say complete your goals, I mean you making consistent progress towards your goals to at least do your best to achieve it, essentially.
Right.
And then also, vice versa. If someone else doesn't complete it, you get their money as well. And so it really does add that, oh, I don't want to, have someone else win my money because I was lazy one day.
Right.
Yeah. And they'll also honor based as well. So when you get your task done for the day, you submit it into an app saying, hey, here I am proving I did my task for the day. If you want to be creative, you can take a picture at the gym saying, here I am at the gym proving I was here as well. And so, technically people could lie about that, but that's on them.
Yeah, I mean, they're only cheating themselves, they get their own money back and nothing else, so this comes apart. You're like, well, what if, who cares? But like, the only person who really loses is them. They're not taking anyone else's money. They get their own back and they didn't make any progress. So they're exactly where they started.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
Worst case scenario, they're right where they started, and that only affects them. So absolutely makes sense. I remember listening to something from Darren Hardy. You may remember it as well from the group. He talked about I think what they were like doing the pedometers in an office. Darren Hardy was talking about an office he had worked with, and they were trying to increase everyone's health. And so they set it up as the office where like, it was a challenge, and it was like, who could ever get the most steps? And people were, like going out of their way literally to like get more steps and take the stairs and do these things to like win. And then after they were done, so everyone was super engaged, but after they were done, they were like, hey, if you guys keep doing this, we're not going to like make it a challenge anymore, but keep doing it. We can keep track and we'll give some rewards, but it wasn't like set. They said like it completely dropped, like 85% or something. We're just like, yeah, we're good. Like, but they had just changed their lives for like a month, just really just, it was on their mind and going. So going back to what you said about that competitive part, like there's such a healthy aspect of that. You know, competition does not mean putting others down. You know, a lot of times the competition, and more times than not, competition is with ourselves. You know, how much
100%.
can I do? How much can I get forward? And so there's so much health in that, and accountability, right? Because really that challenge, when you have it in a group setting, and it doesn't have to just be groups, but you know, there's a level of accountability. We can see what you're doing. Like we can see like, oh, it doesn't look like Shirley's walking. She's not taking those steps. You know, we can see her numbers, and there's something that kind of keeps you in there. Or again, the encouragement aspect, right? We're not always judging. There's also the encouragement aspect. Hey, Shirley, like I know you haven't been walking. Like, come on, let's go out together for lunch and go for that walk. And just knowing someone's going to check in on you, knowing someone's going to like ask you, you know, for a lot of people, that's also enough. You know, when there's accountability, there's something, again, I'm terrible at quotes. I swear, as I go on with this show, I got to get better with that. But that says, in general, humans do better when they're being watched. And so like this can go all the way to like the nitty gritty of like, you know, you're on camera in the store, you're like, you know, probably not scratching your butt or something, but you know, so you're on your best behavior. But you know, so that's one level. But in general, like, you know, when the boss is there, you know, let's put it that, like, you know, you're probably not skimming on Facebook, you're not doing those things. You might not be very happy, but all of a sudden you're on your best behavior. And there's some truth in that when we're also trying to accomplish what we want to accomplish. And the question I always ask is, if we can do that, like let's use the boss coming up example. You know, if you can be on your best behavior to work your best because your boss is there and being watched, why is it that we can't do that for ourselves, to be our best, to set it up like, and we see what we're doing, but for some reason we can only do it at that level when someone else is watching. And this is where we can facilitate accountability in a way that isn't the boss showing up and hovering over you. This is like you creating like someone you like, who's going, yeah, I'm going to support you in order to do this thing that you say you want to accomplish. Because the truth is, no matter what, when you're watched, you're doing a better job. So you can take this idea of accountability, you take this tool, really what it is, and instead of waiting for it to show up, you institute it yourself. You bring it in. And in this case, like working with Andrew, right? So you come in here and you're like, look, I can make this and do it on my terms, you know, in so many ways. There's a certain buy-in and all that. But, you know, if you commit to it, you commit and say, it's done, then you can be confident you're going to get that back because you're going to do the things you need to do. Or you can do it out of fear. Of course, there's that too. Oh my God, I can't lose that money, you know, but hey, even taking that step is even if it's scary as hell, taking that step is such a big action to do. It's such a big signal to yourself, you know, that you're serious about it, right? And you know that self-signaling is a real thing, you know, us knowing, like, or your brain going, oh, we really meant that? Okay, like, all right, we're serious. So there, that was my rant for a minute, but I mean, accountability in itself, you know, outside of your program or anything else, it's such a powerful concept that I think adults in general start to become averse to, because as kids we're always trying to get like away from someone telling us what to do or watching us, you know, just human nature, right? Like we're kids in school, maybe not all of us, but I was definitely the kid who was like, I want to sit at the back of the bus, right? And I wasn't even doing anything wrong. It was just like, I don't want anyone to know I'm not doing anything wrong. I don't know. So I'm at the back of the bus, you know, I want to sit in the back of everything. And so I think we just start to get that. Or our parents, you know, the teenage years, oh my gosh, my parents are in my way. So then we start to become adults, and then it's the boss, and like it's almost a knee-jerk reaction we didn't think about. But then, like when we start to see it, that friend who starts to partner with another friend, like, oh, how did you guys get in shape? Well, I started walking with Deborah, and now we're doing this. You're like, oh, like, man, I need to do that. And so that's it's a thing that we kind of like, as grown-ups, I always say, as grown-ups, we need to have our own bedtime. That's a whole other tangent we can talk about. But that's another thing. As grown-ups, if we know and recognize accountability for what it really is, then we can actually consciously be like, you know what? I need to bring that into my life, right? Not wait for it, not do that. You go and search it, and you find articles, or you find Andrew's group, or you find something like that, and you're like, I'm going to use this tool because the science is clear that it works.
Mm-hmm.
right? Like that's a huge part of it, is that you can be like, oh, I don't know. And you can say, I don't know all you want, but the proof is in the pudding. It's worked. It's part
Yeah,
of our
yeah.
human psychology that when someone else is involved, when somebody cares, a lot of going down a grim side of things, like when we start to look at suicides and things like that, a lot of times it's not drug use. There's a terrible names again. There's another guy out there, great guy, can't remember his name. Tim Ferriss is a big fan of him, but he talks about addiction, and that addiction is not the drug, it's actually the lack of a social system. And so when people have actually given up on them, or they've removed themselves from the people that care, it's easier for them to go further down the hole. And so a lot of the therapy, actually, I gotta find his name because it's really awesome. So the therapy that he puts in actually is about creating a social system for them. So they have this idea that somebody cares, that somebody's around, that there's somebody to be accountable to, buzzword, and it actually changes around more than any of the current rehabilitation practices have been. Detoxes, things like that, because as we've learned, celebrity living, like the rehabs don't always work, right? They go right back in. So this is, again, here's my preaching right now, like this accountability is so real, it's so serious, that this social connection, social system is so powerful, and it's powerful in both ways, right? It's powerful to keep us going, and it's also just as powerful to tear us down. And that comes back to what we're talking about, environment, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and there's a reason why AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, is so powerful too, is because we're in an environment of other people saying, oh, they're not drinking alcohol, I better keep not drinking alcohol as well.
Right.
And
You'll be shunned if you show up and smell like alcohol, right? I mean, you literally will be kicked out, like,
yeah, exactly.
absolutely.
And on the app too, like, the other thing too is, Ramit Sethi talks about how, like, as humans, human motivation, just like a roller coaster, just like up and down as life goes on. And so whenever you're not feeling like going to the gym one day, if you look at the app and say, oh, Shirley already went to the gym, Timmy already went to the gym, I guess I better go to the gym too, kind of thing. It really does give you that extra kick, that extra push to say, I need to get this done, I need to make this happen. It really is, like you said, very, very effective.
Yeah. And what's so important about that too is that the motivation didn't necessarily change, right? It wasn't like, oh, Shirley, when I'm motivated, it's like the connection of it. Like, okay, I'm going to have to tell Shirley I didn't go, or they're going to see my post that I didn't go, right? That there's something else too. So we don't always find, and I say that to say we don't always find the motivation, right? Because if we wait for motivation, like you said, Ramit Sethi says, like, it is a roller coaster. If you're like, well, I'm only going to go when I'm motivated, then guess what? You're only going up on the high of the roller coaster, and there's a lot of downs, a lot of twists and turns. So that can't be the thing. And that kind of goes back to the willpower, right? Willpower can't be the thing you hold on to, because it's wishy-washy. So we get motivated, and I'm going to call a lot of you listeners out right now. How many of you have been motivated laying down the night before going, I ate too much, I slept terrible, or I lost my temper, whatever. Tomorrow, I'm totally going to do it different. You were motivated. And when that alarm goes off, your butt stays in bed and nothing else changes, because the motivation is gone. But the desire was there, right? So we have to capture in those moments and actually do something about it. And accountability is that thing that keeps the motivation when we don't have it, right? That's the thing. So yeah, absolutely. I love that you mentioned motivation. So how do we like get involved, or how do you well, I guess actually when I start, so let's go back to where we're starting with people. So they've come to you. Some of them just don't know where to start. They don't know what to do. You get them going. We kind of found out how people will fall out if they fall out. And then the people who stay, what do they tend to do? Do they like, yeah, that was awesome, and go? Or do they like do they continue to invest in things, or do they create their own like accountability group outside, or how's that facilitated?
Well, yeah. So real quick, just to give you some examples of people I've worked with. So for example, so the very first accountability system I did was just with my, close family and friends. And, for example, like my dad, he's like, you know what, I probably need to cut out hard alcohol for a month straight just to see if I can do it. And he would constantly message in the group, yeah, I got offered more hard alcohol today, but I was able to turn it down thanks to the accountability system. So thumbs up for that. And another guy I worked with, he was overweight, he was obese, he was working a corporate job. And he's like, gosh, I got to get back in shape, I got to lose weight. And I said, okay, well, what's a way that you think is making you obese in the first place? What's causing these health problems in the first place? He's like, well, I do eat a lot of candy and I don't exercise. And so I said, okay, well, let's break it down. Can we cut out candy? How can we exercise more? He's like, you know what? Yep, I'm going to cut out candy completely. And I'm also going to exercise by running a mile every single day for 100 days straight. And that was
Whew.
our 100-day challenge.
He went
And
big.
oh
Like
yeah,
he
yeah.
went like, and so that's what I love about this, because this is self-imposed. This isn't like Andrew's not like,
Mhm.
okay, so this you're gonna follow my diet plan, or you're gonna follow. It's like, you tell me what you believe you can do. Because I'll
Mhm.
tell you for now, cutting out candy not a problem, but running a mile a day, like I'd be off that plan. Like if someone told me,
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, that's not how it works for me.
Mhm.
So, but
Yeah.
that's amazing. So they pick it, and
Mhm.
go ahead. So he did that.
Yeah, so he did that, and of course ended up losing like 8% body fat. He also had a
Wow.
goal of like posting on social media every single day as he wanted to grow a social media brand. And then it was really cool. He took his girlfriend to a duck game to visit her old ducks, as in like Oregon Ducks from
Yeah, yeah.
University of Oregon, and she like started
I have
showing off her.
a friend who played football for them. They,
Oh, perfect.
yeah.
Heck yeah. Yeah. And just like, yeah, she was hanging with her friend she hasn't seen in like 2 or 3 years, and like showed off how many push-ups she could do in a row. And they're like, dang girl, like, how'd you do that? She's like, well, let me tell you.
That's
um,
amazing.
and yeah, I just saw her posting about doing the crow's pose, the yoga pose on
Yeah, yeah,
Facebook
yeah. It's a
recently.
rough one.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
a chin plant if you don't know what you're doing.
Hmm. And the other thing too is that yeah. So your question is, so people staying involved versus like starting their own groups. It really does vary per person. I was talking to someone else in the AMP group, and he's saying, is that people don't do things that work because it just kind of goes back to going back to their old habits and routines of what's comfortable per se.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so some people have been constantly coming back. Some people are like, you know what, I just want to do my own group. Some people are like, oh, I need to take a month or two break to determine, when I can get more energy for the next one, kind of thing. Because it really
Well, I
is
think
personal.
I
It
was
goes on go.
curious, like if you've kind of reached a lot of maybe certain goals and you're like,
Mhm.
man, I'm really doing good at this goal thing. And perhaps
Mhm.
maybe the investing part, that loss isn't so necessary for them anymore. Do they,
Oh,
you know what I mean? So they're like, look, you've trained me. I've got it. I'm like on a go-getter level. Do they
mhm.
still stick around like for the camaraderie, for the group, the people they've connected with, or anything like that?
Yeah, no, we definitely have an ongoing group of people who've gone through the challenge, completed it, been a part of it, who are posting about their success. So that's definitely a great aspect of it. There's a community of people around it who are staying in contact with each other and is
Nice.
very helpful in it. And it's so awesome to see the whole scope of goals that were completed, from people getting their startup businesses off the ground, to creating their own podcast series, to losing weight, gaining weight when they want to, of course.
Right, right. So good.
And like breaking world records, reading more books. And so just like the whole scope of things is great to see, be a part of a community of people where everyone's goal setting, everyone's reaching new heights and going, oh, I actually have more confidence in myself because I know that I can actually do more than I thought I could, faster than I thought I could.
Right. Yes, I love it. So accountability, you guys, if you haven't learned now, it's
Yeah.
a tool. It's a real thing. It's not just, being like micromanaged. It's really a choice that you can make, that you can implement. And as you're hearing right now, there's plenty of ways to do it. You have this group that Andrew has where you put in a little bit of fear, and there's psychology behind that. It's not because he's trying to get your money and no one's trying to knock you down, but it's for your own set action. It's for your own, like it's using like, and we said that in the beginning of the show, what human psychology can do to help you, and it's your
Mhm.
own psychology working for you. So your goal is to get that money back, and Andrew and his group are happy for you to get it back, because the real
Mhm.
testimony is you reaching your goal, right? So
Mhm.
you get
Mhm.
through there, you do this, you have these groups, and if that's not like your thing, that's okay, but you can look up different ways to institute accountability. There's apps out there, there's rubber band, there's a bazillion out there. The first step is going, you know what, I learned by listening to Tanya and Andrew today that accountability is actually a tool. It's not just me having be responsible for something. It's actually a tool that I can bring in, and how can I use this for this thing that I want, and
Mhm.
go and find it, right?
Yeah. And the
So
best part about this too, actually, really quick, is that, yeah, this so far, like over the past, almost 2 years, 2 years now, actually, is that it has been a guaranteed success so far. Like not a single person has lost their money whenever they set a goal and put that initial investment in. So that's always good news too.
Love it. Love it. See that everyone is getting their goals because they don't want to lose that money and they're motivated. You know, you got to put some skin in the game. Like that's a real thing. The reason that saying exists is because it's a real thing that affects us, you know, and that loss. There's also something that says like somebody will freak out more about losing $5 and getting $100, right? They're like, but that $5, I had it. It was in my pocket. You're like, dude, you just got $100. Like, but the $5, and you're like, so it's just a weird thing us humans do, guys. So, well, before my last question, can you please tell everyone, like, where do we find you? Where do we find the group? Follow you? Anything and everything.
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook, Andrew Weiss, Instagram, Andrew J. Weiss, Twitter, The Andrew J. Weiss, LinkedIn, Andrew Joseph Weiss, website is weisswisdom.com, email is weisswisdom@gmail.com. So I always love to hear from people and just kind of seeing, you know, what kind of goals you're working on, what would you like some more input and advice from, what would you most like to get out of the group that you join here, as far as how can we help you reach your goals that you're after. As you know, I'm very passionate about this subject and want to make sure everyone has that opportunity, essentially. So yeah, and I know Tanya said she's going to post all the contact links as well, and so feel free to reach out. That's another thing I noticed too, is that you know, what's crazy is that when I'm listening to other podcasts and other shows, when I actually reach out to the guests, they respond. And I'm like, geez, I wonder how many people heard this episode but didn't actually reach out and follow up, because this must be why they're responding. And so if you actually are watching this and are serious about wanting to reach out, just do it. It doesn't,
Andrew literally is putting his contact information out there, guys. Like, they can't get more specific than find me everywhere here. All of these channels have DMs, you know, and then what is the one that they go to? Is that the website to find for the group, like to actually join the group, or do they just message you? What do you want them to do?
Yeah, Weiss Wisdom, and there's a tab called Consistent Progress System. So they just go to the website and then click the tab, essentially. And then just, I'll follow up with you accordingly and be able to walk you through next steps as well. Yeah.
All right, guys. So it couldn't be more perfect timing. Like, we're in this, you know, new year area, new decade, everything's like right here. So this is the time to like get it together, like see the potential, because it's so disheartening for how many people have these New Year's resolutions and things, and they have this January and then they fall off. And unfortunately, 95% of them do. So a lot of us go, well, that's normal and it's okay. We all laugh about it. But if your goal is mediocrity, then stay there. But if it's not, then it's time to do something different, right? It's time to do it a different way. So, so for my last question, Andrew, what is the task that you're going to have me do this week to kind of harness accountability so I can achieve?
Well, Tanya, I'd ask you, so we do the category goal setting of health, wealth, and happiness. And so, so what's something that you'd like to accomplish within a week in either or all of those categories?
Okay. So I may have to think about that. I have an overabundance of goals. So let me find one and I'll let you know. And then once I have it, what do I do with it?
Then we talk about how can you break it down into what you can do consistently every day for that week straight. And so
and then that becomes kind of my accountability in the system.
Yeah. And then you enter your progress each day into the goal, into the group chat we have going on.
So I get to test the system.
Oh, yes.
Oh, look at me. How exciting. Okay, this will be awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to figure it out. And when people contact you to to do this, is this like you have a conversation with every single one of them, or does this happen via email or?
Yeah. So as we are scaling it right now, we are going to have a conversation with each person just to make sure that, we let them set their own standards and also make sure they actually get to where they want to go in the first place, and then actually feel fulfilled by the goals. Because another thing is that as human nature, once again, once we accomplish something, like, oh, well, there's also something else over here I can go do, so I'm gonna go do that, rather than like, you know, how can you actually enjoy the journey, enjoy the process? It's not all about accomplishing the goals. It's like, you know, enjoying that mile run per day, enjoying resisting the temptation to do whatever each day, essentially.
Only focus on the doing and not on like what it creates for you.
Exactly. Right. And both are good. So if you can do both, that's great. And we do weekly reviews, kind of make sure that you are happy with what consistent progress you're making. And we also do guest speakers that come on as motivation as well and inspiration. So yeah, a lot of great aspects of it to make sure you
Awesome.
get to where you want to go. Yeah.
So I'm going to go in there. I'm going to contact you. I'll get my information. I'll get my kind of little mini counseling session and get
Hmm.
set up. And then anyone else who comes in to do this, they'll set up, it'll kind of instruct them how to go through all that and get started with you. So you'll get like a mini session with Andrew, you guys. Like, is he not like super invigorating? Like all this energy there. So take advantage of that.
Hmm.
So awesome. Well, thank you so much for being
Hmm.
here. And I have my assignment, you guys. I will keep you posted on exactly what it is. I just have to make some decisions. But if you want to achieve more, you need to get in on that tribe because, as we said,
Hmm.
there's no such thing as self-made. We've all had stepping stones along the way. So if you want to follow along with my challenge as I start to work with Andrew's group, then tag us and use the hashtag #HoldMeToIt. Or you can just watch me go through it at My Design Life Show on Facebook and Instagram, or learn more on our website at mydesignlife.show. You can also follow me, Tanya MFK, at Tanya MFK, and learn about our workshops, retreats, and programs at tanyamfk.com. And if you like this episode and like to see more, make sure to click that subscribe button to be notified of our next show. And remember, your someday starts today, so make it the best. I'm Tanya MFK, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us. You can catch us every week at 1 p.m. EST live on the My Design Life Show Facebook page and on YouTube at the Tanya MFK channel. See how the challenges go by following us on Facebook and Instagram at My Design Life Show and at Tanya MFK. Do you have a method, tip, or hack you'd like to share or explore? Submit to be a guest or suggest a topic by visiting mydesignlife.show.